Hey everybody, so I'm out in the lovely little town of Pushkin and I'm going to go into the building behind me, which is the Catherine Palace, which has the famous amber room inside. So this was Catherine the Great's retreat from the hustle and bustle of St Petersburg, because you know it's so hard being a Tsar, or Tsarina rather, but anyway. So yeah, this is the Catherine Palace. Let's go have a look. Also, after this, I've seen a small museum, it's free, which has relics of the Second World War, which may be relics related to the fighting around this region, because this was actually in German hands during the Siege of Leningrad. So, yeah, let's go have a look at the palace. So, waiting in line now, outside the palace. The sign's warn of over 3 hours waiting, so we'll see if I stay in this queue. But, so far, what little I've seen, quite nice. Quite manicured, like all of these sort of country estates of the former aristocracy. So I'll get back to you when I get inside. So I'm in the palace. I didn't have to wait 3 hours, which is pretty good. But we had to wear these things on our feet. Make us put these on your feet. Would you look at that? And then we head into some sort of stateroom. Wow. Jesus wept. I mean, this makes the Hermitage look like a piece of crap. There you go. Fuck me. So apparently this is the Great Hall. And all of this covered in gold, or at least it's gold paint over a particular kind of wood. And above us, I mentioned, so this is the Victory of Russia, these 3 pictures. So the one I just showed you was sort of, you know, the development of the sciences, that kind of thing. This is the development of, or it's like the triumph of victory, that kind of thing. And then on the other side is the triumph of peace. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, isn't it? Pretty cool. Apparently a lot of it was destroyed during the war, again, because this town was occupied, and this had to be all restored. A good deal of it had to be restored by Soviet architects, and to their credit, they did it. Fair play to them. The tour guide said, the audio guide says that during the Soviet period, this was a museum for the entire Soviet period, from 1918 until the end. So it was looked after, but yeah, now it's a museum again, obviously, and it had to be redone after the war. So there you go, the Great Hall in the Catherine Palace. You've got to do your ultimate mirror selfie in a place like this, you know. What else can you do? Triumph of Buffalo. Hell of a dining room. This is the picture hall after the amber room, which you're now not allowed to take photos or video in. So, Alexander I's Chinese drawing room. Apparently these walls used to be entirely made out of silk. Again, their people couldn't feed themselves, but they had silken walls. So, and all the gold and paint and everything. Yeah, this is a bit more my jam. I've got some pictures here of what the Catherine Palace looked like while it was occupied. Or rather, while the Germans occupied Pushkin. They occupied for about 3 years, actually. Very cool. So, that was the Catherine Palace. Alas, you're not allowed to film or take photos in the amber room, so I wasn't able to do that. That's a bit annoying, but, you know, at least I've been there, one of the wonders of the world, as people say. It's a pretty cool place. One thing that is impressed upon you in the audio tour, again, get the audio guide, because you'll miss out if you don't. One thing that's sort of impressed upon you is just how much of this place was destroyed. Now, Pushkin was, you know, being outside of Leningrad, it was occupied by the Germans. And, you know, what they didn't ransack, they just let sort of fall into disrepair. Or just, there was actually some photos of them just letting the place burn in a lot of instances. I suppose, you know, the Nazis did believe that these people were subhuman and their culture was subhuman. So they thought, save the stuff that we like and then just pretend the rest of it's, you know, degenerate art or whatever, you know. It's not supposed to make sense. It's National Socialism. It's fucking stupid. But anyway, yeah, a lot of the place was destroyed, and they're still rebuilding a lot of it. So apparently the main restoration work really kicked off, obviously, right after the war. The Amber Room, as it is now, wasn't open to the public and restored until about 2003. And they sort of worked their way across through the building, just updating stuff over the years and opening it up to the public and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was a pretty cool place. They keep you moving at a fairly quick clip, although, you know, you're allowed to sort of take your time. Like, I hung around in the Amber Room for quite a while trying to get a photograph without the staff seeing, but they're quite good at making sure you don't do it. I saw them yell at one Chinese lady who tried to take a picture. But yeah, so the Catherine Palace, pretty cool. I'm going to look around the gardens for a little bit now, and then I might head over to that small little museum just down the road of relics from the occupation, and then head on back into Leningrad. A nice corner of the world. One thing that did strike me walking through is it's another interesting case of the duality of the modern Russian character. So obviously, you know, I can't attest for what it was like in Soviet times, you know, but my assumption would be that it would have been kept as something more as just a historical curiosity, as a historical point of interest. You know, this is where Catherine the Great lived. This is the sort of wealth she lived in. One thing I remark in the footage is whenever I go to this Tsarist stuff is, well, your subjects couldn't feed themselves, but we knew who was in charge. You know, the fabulous power and opulence and wealth and gravitas that's communicated just by the decor and the interior design of the homes that they lived in. But it's just interesting to see now. Perhaps I'm reading a bit too much into it, but it's interesting to see that as part of the modern Russian character, they can still be proud of this period in their history. And I mean, fair enough. Like, you know, Peter the Great, Catherine the Great brought them closer to Europe. You know, modernized the place quite a lot. You know, that's a legitimate reason to be proud of any period in your history. But I don't know. I think now they look at it, and it's just interesting, as I say, to see them squaring that circle of, you know, being proud of their Soviet past and being proud of their Tsarist past, and perhaps the push to really get going with the restoration of this place speaks to that. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. So it's just interesting that they feel that they can be proud of both of those systems at the same time. This is a little street in the lovely little town of Pushkin, named for the poet back in the 30s, to celebrate to mark the 100-year anniversary of his death in 1937, or whenever it was. Lovely little town of Pushkin. Genuine stuff, I think, from the defense of Leningrad. I wish my Russian was better. your sort of normal Leningrad room at the time of the siege. Sort of what it might have looked like.
Мы копались везде, что в детстве. Это зажигалки, наверное. Это наш автомат.
Welcome to the town of Pushkin, everybody. It's quite nice here. Clearly the palace brings in quite a lot of money. So, yeah. It's sort of pleasant, kind of cute. Don't know if I want to be outside after dark out here though. So, gotta leg it to the train station. Life in a provincial Russian town, everybody. I mean, let's not get too carried away. This is just Pushkin. I'm only a half-hour drive out of Leningrad. And we've got the administration building of the Pushkin region, just off of Oktябрьский Boulevard, извините. And like I said, in a lot of other places, the hammer and sickle would still be there, not the Tsarist eagle. So, just a little point of difference between Leningrad, or St Petersburg, and Moscow. One very real legacy of socialism that really appeals to me that I've noticed so far is the public transport system here. A lot of places that would otherwise be quite difficult to get to if you didn't have a car, like Pushkin for instance, are connected by a very robust series of buses and trains. Some of it isn't too great to look at, like it does look a little bit tired and a little bit old and a little bit slapdash, but it does connect these towns, and that's really all that matters. There's clearly a lot of car ownership in Russia, but I do wonder how people afford it, given that wages here aren't so great. But I think that's sort of an affliction of the modern age. We don't get paid enough, and yet we have all these expenses. Really cool, a very real legacy of socialism that goes beyond just the hammers and sickles. Really cool, really liked it, really like it. Really amazed to see how good the public transport system is here. So further to my point about public transport, the usual focal point of a lot of Russian towns is the train station, or in the more remote areas, bus stations. But it serves to connect all of these towns in a way that wouldn't have been connected otherwise. So here we go, Tsarskoye Selo's train station. And I'm going to grab a train here back into Leningrad, right back to the center of town. And then I think I might go to a Stolovaya, maybe a craft beer place, and have a look around. Пока-пока, Pushkin. You're in a great little town. Gotta wait a little bit.
Thank you.
I'm on a Soviet train, everybody. Very cool.